Hello all and welcome to Shatter Our Souls with Novaria, and today we are breaking down Balseph from Tales of Arise, the first boss of the game, or at least first mandatory boss. Balseph is intended to be an imposing figure. He's one that looks the part. He is terrifying. We are talking this man being a 7-foot tall, hulking brick wall of a man. And truth be told, as the first boss, and dare I say, first major antagonist of the game, he makes a pretty compelling opening to the game. Now, Balseph is actually his nickname, which, according to the game, means wild beast. Balseph's true name, or given name, is Erwolzi Teldilis. Now, for lack of confusion here, I'm going to call him Balseph for the rest of this, but it does kind of lead to a more of a discussion on why. Why the wild beast? And I think the answer to that basically boils down to Balseph wants to be seen as someone imposing, intimidating, overpowering, somebody who is not afraid to get his hands dirty, somebody who is going to get down and battle his opponents with everything that he has, because to avoid it, to not do it, is effectively doing himself a significant disservice. Now, on a general vibes aspect, this man thrives on perceived power. This is a man who wants to showcase that he is the strongest guy that you're gonna meet, and here's why. And so, for him, every action, every decision he makes usually involves military power or flexing his own muscles to intimidate those around him. And that in and of itself kind of paints this beautiful canvas for this guy, where if he cannot impose fear on those around him, then he loses everything that makes him potent to begin with, and he will start to unravel. Now, the reason for this individual is actually due to something called the Crown Contest. Every decade or so, 5 renan lords are chosen to act in this contest. The contest is relatively simple. The 5 renan lords have to amass the most astral energy out of the 5 of them, or whomever wins, has to amass the most astral energy out of the 5 lords, and they will be crowned sovereign, the effective de facto ruler of the entire renan homeworld. This is quite a huge boon to someone like Balseph, as he, specifically, is a bit of a family man. Now, this might come as a shock to those who have only finished the Calaglia side, and I do apologize about this because this is admittedly a throwaway statement from way later in the game, but his entire goal is to elevate House Teldilis, and in doing so, by elevating House Teldilis, he is ensuring prosperity for his kin. That is his entire goal. Sovereign, king of everybody, and helping his family at the same time. And this in and of itself is actually quite a departure from the depiction we get of him in Calaglia. Mind you, again, it's a one-off throwaway line, but it is something. Now, the other throwaway line that we hear is actually a conversation between Balseph and Ganabelt Valkyris, one of the other 5 renan lords. Each of them is intended to work somewhat together, that should one fail, the rest should be able to step in and help. That's the quote-unquote goal of all 5 of them. But due to the adversarial nature of this, they tend not to. Anyways, Ganabelt mentions to Balseph that having failed to ascend to the throne twice now, that Balseph is perhaps more interested than ever than anyone else to become sovereign. Now we know by that moniker, by that statement, that Balseph has been the Lord of Calaglia for approximately 30 years, which is a absurdly long time to go and get the milk, especially for a family man like himself. But it does again showcase a level of dedication that other individuals simply wouldn't have. Now, I mentioned prior that he had a level of intimidation. The intimidation aspect is because in order to harvest astral energy, typically you have to harvest it from living beings. This is through the means of something called a spirit core, which is embedded onto each of the Danon slaves that he rules over within Calaglia. This will transmit astral energy to the spirit vessel within Balseph's castle, and from the castle to his master core. Effectively, there's a multiple step process as to why or how things work in his realm. And as an individual, Balseph is very to the point, plain Jane. He is all about flexing muscles, he's all about intimidation, he is all about fear-mongering. If people don't do as he says, well, they'll be the first to disappear. He is through and through an intimidation style dictator. Now, notably mentioning all of this is, I'm going to have to say that due to his age and his general tastes, that he focuses more so on productivity, especially in his older age. This man has to be at least 50 going on to 55, 60 at this point. He is past his prime as far as renan would go. Therefore, Balseph is really stressing to become and be the best that he can be, to achieve as much as he possibly can, because to fail again would mean the end of his chances to ascend the throne. Now, as I mentioned, his age is a problem. His castle, Glanymede Castle, is effectively a sea stack made of fire and stone in the middle of a lake of boiling lava. And first of all, intimidation factor through the roof. There's a whole lot of aura going on there. But the thing that I find interesting about him in particular is that the renan lords all focus in on having extravagant castles, high-end technology, or simply just a refined sensibilities for the looks of the space that they spend their time in. Balseph does not care, like, at all, about how his castle looks. What he cares about is, first and foremost, is it habitable? Is it going to collapse? If either of those things is not a absolute best case scenario, he will fix it. But he doesn't dwell on it. He doesn't focus on it. That's not his prerogative. That's not his goal. His goal is extract astral energy and do his job as best he can. Now, I kind of like this more pragmatic, more duty-first mentality for this guy, because I think that in comparison to the other renan lords, he is, ironically, the most down-to-earth of all of them. But, no, that's not true. There is one that's more down-to-earth than him, but we'll get to that later. Balseph is the type of character who is, in many ways, considering efficiency. But efficiency does not always improve his likelihood of success. Now, among the renan lords, each of them had a different set of skills that they employed to ensure that they would become the next sovereign. That was their whole gambit, right? Because Balseph, sorry, stuttering here, because Balseph is the type of individual who focuses in on fear-mongering and intimidation, eventually, sometimes he has to act on it. He has to lash out in order to make his statement known. And in some cases, this is great. Sometimes this works beautifully for Mr. Balseph. But for every single time he lashes out, for every single life he takes, he reduces the amount of energy that he can effectively continue to draw on. He reduces the amount of astral energy that he is going to have in the pool at the end of it. So, like it or not, every time he lashes out, every time he asserts that he is the strongest, he also, paradoxically, makes it harder for himself to succeed, putting him, unfortunately, in my opinion, very bottom of the totem pole. He has the lowest likelihood of success, and to me, that is quite the shame. But I suppose I should ask the question now, why is he the first boss of all of them? Well, in my opinion, it actually has to come down to two basic things. Number one is gameplay. From a gameplay perspective, you're facing off against Balseph with your first two characters, Alphen and Shion. One a ranger, one a close quarters combat specialist. These two characters work well together, but against enemies that are more diverse in skill set, it can occasionally be a bit more difficult. And so putting a individual like Balseph, who is designed as a brute, who never uses much aside from raw power, aside from swinging a human-sized battle axe around, it makes for a easier boss. It makes for a boss that the average player is going to be able to go in and say, I can beat that guy. And when all is said and done, I do believe that is the gameplay side of it. But there is a separate side, one that I don't think we really need or talk about as deeply. And it is actually the storyline side. See, because Balseph is a dictator, because he is an individual who focuses in on intimidation and focuses in on fear-mongering tactics, rather than, dare I say, psychological warfare, something we will get into, he unfortunately lacks a lot of the capabilities that that can shut down a revolution before it happens. You can see that the Crimson Crows are a group of individuals who focus in on trying to slowly but surely take down Balseph's supply lines. They try to help each other out, lift each other up, and that is absolutely fantastic for these individuals. But at the end of the day, Balseph is still the one in charge. But if you look at movies like A Bug's Life, the bugs outnumber the ants outnumber the grasshoppers 10-1. And as soon as they realize that, they can take down the grasshoppers and life is all good, right? Using that same logic, the Danans outnumber the renans 10-1. The only reason why the renans are so much more powerful is admittedly a formalized military, but also the fact that the Danans have all but given up on fighting back, for the most part. So why did he fail? Why does he fail primarily? It comes down to the fact that Balseph did not have enough of a grip on his own region, his own nation, that he was intending to lead. Because when fear stops working, when fear of death is no longer enough, you start fighting your way to the top. And of course, Balseph was at the top. Anyways, I know for certain that I have missed something. That's a guarantee here. But on a brief mention here, I do believe that Balseph as a character is probably the least interesting of the Renan Lords. And I do want to get into each of them at some point in time, but the problem is having footage to go along with it. Anyways, if you like what you see, please drop a like, a subscribe. It would mean the world to me. That is all for now, and I hope you all have a good one.